Miranda is a witch. She lives with her house elf Bubba in an old castle. The property's roof requires renovation. That's why Miranda hires 3 builders. She leaves Bubba with them and flies to the farmer's market. In the evening, Miranda returns and finds out that the builders have already fixed the roof and left. But someone stole the most powerful artifact from Miranda's library, an ancient snake statue. Bubba swears to have nothing to do with the robbery, and Miranda suspects the builders. Luckily, she has cameras around the castle. Take a look at the footage made in the morning and in the evening. Is it true that the thief is among the builders? This guy carried just one small tool in the morning, but the evening footage shows that he carried a large tool in his hand. Therefore, he must have hidden the stolen artifact in his briefcase. Miranda grabs her broom and flies to the thief's apartment to get her artifact back. He's not home, and Miranda decides to search the room. Can you help her find the artifact? It's in the oven. Miranda purchases a super rare and expensive orchid for her garden. Later that day, she throws a barbecue. The next morning, Miranda sees that the orchid is gone. It means that one of her guests is a thief, but they claim they didn't see the flower disappear. Miranda decides to visit and question 3 suspects. Lily says, "I've been attending your barbecue parties for years. It wasn't me. Why would I steal from my bestie?" Donna says, "How dare you? I'm not a thief. I'm allergic to all flowers. I'll never come to your party again." And Cassie says, "Oh, come on. Everyone knows that I'm super rich. I can afford to buy hundreds of orchids." Who's lying? Donna has flowers on the windows, which means that her story about the allergy is fake. The magic world is facing difficulties because the master wizard got sick. Miranda was chosen to carry out his duties. Her task is to separate magic school applicants between 2 faculties, good and evil. Here's the first candidate's profile. What do you say, good or bad? Leo is only 18 years old, but he says that he's been involved in charity projects for 20 years. Liar! Therefore, he should join the evil faculty. What about Luna? Is she a good witch or pure evil? Luna says she's never stayed in one country for more than a year. Therefore, she can't be cleaning her grandparents' house every day, so her story is fake, and she should go to the evil faculty too. Here's the next profile. What do you say? Seems like Olaf is a good guy. What about Helga? Does she seem good to you? Helga's story is fake. There's no monkeys in Antarctica. Evil. And here's the last profile. What do you say? Magnus didn't lie. Therefore, he can go to the good faculty. Miranda is giving a private potion class to Amber. They prepare a luck potion in a large cauldron. Suddenly, Miranda's phone rings and she goes out for 5 minutes to talk. 5 minutes later, Miranda returns and sees that Amber is under a love spell. Can you guess what happened here? Amber added this greenish ingredient to the cauldron and the luck potion turned into a love potion. Miranda returns home. Suddenly, she hears weird noises from the basement and goes there to check it out. It's dark and Miranda only sees the silhouettes of 3 robbers running away with her box of gold. Miranda calls the police. The officer finds the suspects and invites Miranda for identification. Can you help her find the thieves among these people? Only these 3 individuals match the silhouettes perfectly. The next day, Miranda goes to see a fancy haunted castle. She meets 3 people in the lobby: Drake, Luke, and Maya. Each person claims to be the castle's official owner. Can you help Miranda figure out the real one? Take a look at Drake. He's holding a badge with Maya's picture, and according to this badge, Maya is a chef. Luke is holding a poster with Drake's picture. It says that Drake is a runaway criminal. So Luke must be the real owner of this place. The next morning, Miranda arrives at magic school. Oh no! Someone drew runes on her wall in her office. The spell turns Miranda's hair into snakes. Luckily, she knows the counterspell and quickly fixes herself up. Miranda wants to find out who pulled the prank and interrogates 3 suspects. Bella says,
I woke up late and just arrived here. I wouldn't have time for a prank.
Theodore says,
I don't use magic for silly pranks. It's against my principles.
And Alice says,
I think it was Bianca. I heard her talking bad things about you the other day.
who did it? Theodore's fingers are stained with blue chalk. The runes on the wall are drawn in the same color. Busted! Miranda enters the class and sees that one of the students is turning into a zombie. Can you guess who? Take a look at this guy's hand. He's turning into a zombie. After work, Miranda goes to the farmer's market. Can you help her sort an odd tomato out? This one. What about cheese? Which piece doesn't belong here? It's over here. Let's see if you can sort an odd cherry out. Hello! Miranda returns home. She finds her house elf, Bubba, unconscious on the floor. Bubba says that he didn't see the attacker's face because he was wearing a mask. Miranda finds 4 suspects and questions them. Morpheus says, I spent all day at home learning new spells. Morgana says, I don't know who did it. I was in my garden taking care of my lilies. And Xavier says,
I was on a date with my girlfriend all day long. We've just returned home.
Who's lying? Although Morpheus has a solid mask collection, it doesn't prove that he's guilty. Meanwhile, Morgana doesn't have any lilies in her garden. Therefore, she lied. A huge drama is taking place in the magic school library. This morning, someone tore up an expensive antique spellbook. Miranda finds 3 suspects and asks them only one question. Did you enter the library this morning? Melissa replies, Nope, I spent all morning in the dining hall. My friends can verify my words. Wendy says, I was doing my homework in the classroom all the time. I would never steal a book. It's against my principles. And Nicholas says, I wanted to visit the library a couple of hours ago, but the door was locked, so I just went to the garden. Can you spot the thief? Miranda never mentioned what exactly was stolen, but Wendy is already making excuses. Miranda goes to the dining hall to have some lunch. The cook serves her favorite chicken dumplings. Miranda puts her plate on the table and leaves for the bathroom to wash her hands. When she returns, she finds out that someone had stolen a couple of dumplings from her plate. Miranda questions 3 suspects. Gil says, I'm a vegetarian. Why would I steal anything with chicken? Leah says, I'm on a wheat-free diet because I'm allergic to gluten. So even if I wanted to, I couldn't have eaten your dumplings. And Rose says, I was too busy with my food, so I didn't look at your table. Who's lying? Leah, if she's allergic to gluten, why did she order this sandwich?
There are 3 labeled wooden baskets. On one of them it's written lemons. Another one says pineapples. And the remaining one claims that it has both lemons and pineapples. All the labels are placed incorrectly. You reach into one basket and pull out one fruit. Will you be able to correct all the labels after doing it? Yes. Since the baskets are mislabeled, you know for sure that in the lemons and pineapples basket, you'll find just one type of fruit. So you opt to pick a fruit from that basket. If it's a lemon, this is the lemon basket. And since the pineapple basket is also mislabeled, it must contain lemons and pineapples. Then the remaining basket contains pineapples. The same logic applies if you pull a pineapple out of the lemons and pineapples basket. Can you find a mistake in this picture? Be very attentive. The dog is leaving paw prints of only 2 paws. How about this picture? What's wrong here? This guy is using the wrong tool. To cut this tree, he should be using an axe. Have a look at these girls. They all look perfectly normal, but one of them has recently robbed a bank. Can you figure out which one it is? Pay attention to even the tiniest details. It's the girl on the left. Look, she has lots of different passports on the bed behind her back. She's probably going to escape the country using a fake ID. Look at these nurses and try to figure out which one is fake. The first 2 nurses seem to have the correct pictures on their name tags. But the third nurse has the same picture as the second one, and she doesn't look like the person in the photo, so she is the imposter. Now, put your detective hat on and say which of these men stole the phones. The first 2 men have the phones they're selling on display. They don't hide them. And they also look very confident and proud of their business. The man on the right, though, is hiding the phones behind his basket. He also looks nervous. Look at these men carefully. Who is the baby's father? Based on the baby's hair color and his beauty mark, The man in the middle is most likely his father. Your next task is to figure out which of these people stole the petrol. The woman in the middle is the culprit.
Oh no!
Can you see petrol stains on her clothes? Look at this picture intently and try to figure out which dish could have caused food poisoning. Most probably, it was the combination of the drink and the burger. It doesn't look as if the guy even touched the pizza or the fries. James came to visit his friend Ethan. The guys were watching TV and eating pizza when James' phone rang. It was a sales assistant from his store who claimed there was a problem with one of their customers. James had to leave for a while. Soon after his departure, Ethan felt unwell and lost consciousness. When James returned, he saw that Ethan was lying on the floor and the apartment was in a mess. Ethan luckily came to his senses before the police arrived. He told the officer that the robbers had stolen all his money and electronics. The only question the detective asked him was if Ethan touched anything on the table after James had left. When he heard the negative answer, he immediately arrested James. Can you figure out why? There are ice cubes in the glasses on the table. If those were the same drinks the friends had been drinking before James left, the ice would have melted long ago. It means that James put something in Ethan's glass to knock him out, took all the money and valuables, and replaced the drinks with fresh ones before the police arrived. Luke had an older brother who was always teasing him, mentioning their age gap. When Luke finally went to school, he hoped that his brother wouldn't call him little anymore. But when the boy returned home after his first day of school, his brother started again. Primary school is for babies. Everything you learn is so easy. Then Luke decided to teach his brother a lesson. Okay, then how about you solve a riddle our teacher gave us today? Luke's brother agreed without hesitation. If you take away half of this number, you'll get nothing. What is this number? Even after thinking for a while, Luke's brother didn't manage to solve the riddle. Can you? This number is 8. Take away its top part, and you'll get 0. Littlefield was a tiny village where people didn't even get fines for illegal parking. But one day, something terrible happened in this quiet place. Mr. Richardson, a rich farmer, arrived at the police station saying that 2 of his best cows were missing. There were 3 suspects, and each of them had to answer just one question. Have you taken your neighbor's animals? Mr. Anderson said that he had nothing to do with it because he and Mr. Richardson had a common business, and he wouldn't risk their cooperation. Mrs. Martinez stated that she had been living in this village since birth, and she wouldn't spoil her reputation because of some animals. And Mr. Jones explained that since his family had been breeding pigs for centuries, he didn't have any reasons to steal cows. The police officer managed to figure out who the criminal was. Have you realized it too? The thief is Mr. Jones. How did he know it was cows that were stolen? Nobody had told him what species it was. Detective Scratch was called to investigate a case. A rich lady had disappeared right from her home and no one could find her. The detective had a list of suspects with the following names: Rooney, Messi, David, Chris, and Amanda. But apparently, the criminal was a fan of Detective Scratch, so they decided to attract his attention by leaving notes in different locations. Note number 1 was in the drawing room. The second note was in the art room. Note number 3 was in the vault. The fourth note was in the ice cream room. Yes, that lady was that rich. And note number 5 was in the dining room. All the notes had the same message. The clues you're looking for are where you find the notes. Detective Scratch didn't need much time to figure out what it all meant. How fast can you do the same? The person behind the disappearance of the rich lady was David. You just need to take the first letters of the rooms where the notes were found. D-A-V-I-D. A precious gold figurine disappeared from Mr. Brown's mansion. He invited a private detective since he suspected one of his relatives was the thief. Each of the suspects gave one statement, but only 3 of these statements were correct. Can you figure out who the thief is if the statements are the following? Uncle Jack. Uncle Jim stole the figurine. Aunt Mary. I didn't do it. Cousin Stuart. It wasn't Cousin Margaret. Uncle Jim. Uncle Jack is lying when he says I did it. Cousin Margaret. Aunt Mary is telling the truth. Cousin Mary is the thief.
Oh no!
And the statements of Aunt Mary, Uncle Jim, and Cousin Margaret are true. Eric was locked in a room with 19 other people. Each of them could see the entire room and all the people inside without turning their heads or bodies or moving in any other way. To get out of the room, Eric had to place an apple in such a way that everyone but one person could see it. The guy managed to do it. Can you figure out how he did it? He put the apple on someone's head. Clever. Can you spot the odd emoji in this image? Yep, it's this unfriendly-looking one. It's not smiling like the others.
The most important holiday of the year is coming. So, the king asked his loyal helper Merlin to make sure nothing can ruin the celebration. However, the following day, Merlin received an anonymous letter claiming that the royal jewels had been stolen and they knew where to look for them. The thing is, the young Princess Meredith cares a lot about these jewels, and without them, she won't attend the main ball. In the letter, there was only one sentence. Only these potent creatures can help you. Can you guess where to look for the jewels? The letter was clearly anonymous, but the author used the pseudonym Dracula. The letter is written in red ink, which looks pretty much like blood. Seems like the vampires were after the jewels. Merlin realized he had no time to lose and headed to the woods where supposedly vampires lived. He rode his horse for a couple of hours and stumbled upon a seemingly forlorn castle. Should Merlin come in? Does anyone live there? Even though the castle is covered in spiderwebs and seems like it's been abandoned years ago, look up! There's a dim candlelight in one of the windows. Merlin noticed it too and ventured in. When Merlin entered the castle, he didn't spot anything on the first floor. Then, he saw 2 different stairs leading to the east and west aisles. Which one is safe to climb? Look, some of the stairs on the western staircase are broken. Merlin should use the eastern stairs. Once he climbed the stairs, he saw a room with inviting light. He heard laughter and someone speaking. He entered the room and saw 4 people. One of them must be a vampire. Can you guess who? A guy in a blue gown has a vampire's bite on his neck, so technically he's a vampire, but he's newly converted, so he's unlikely to know anything about the jewels. The lady serving the turkey is wearing a bunch of silver jewelry, so she can't be one. The guy sitting at the table is reflected in the mirror right in front of him, so the real vampire is the blonde lady. Plus, look at her glass. She's drinking blood. Merlin came up to the blonde lady and showed her the letter. She instantly stood up, winked at Merlin, and invited him to follow her. They entered another room, and the vampire lady said,
I'm Isolde, and this is my playroom. If you want to get the royal jewels back, you gotta play with me. Are you into hide and seek?
Boom! Isolde turned into a bat and flew away. Can you help Merlin find her? There are many bats in this room. There's one on the cupboard, another one on the curtains, and one more on the table. But they're all figurines, and only one of them has a trembling wing. Did you spot it? It's hiding behind the chair. Since Merlin did find Isolde, she couldn't but return the jewels back, so she said they were locked up in a safe. Isolde took Merlin to the room where the safe was, but she said he needed to guess the password. Can you help him guess it and open the safe? Looks like Isolde forgot to hide the note with the password. It's right there above the desk. So the password is 6090. Ah, look at these jewels. Merlin headed back to his home kingdom. Once he returned to the castle, he hid the jewels in the king's safe. When the celebration day finally came, the king opened the safe and got terrified. Why? There's a diamond missing from the crown, but Merlin brought it back a perfectly untouched crown, so somebody from the royal staff must have stolen this diamond. Very few people knew the password for the safe. It was Henry, the housekeeper, Jack, the royal counselor, and Merlin. We all know who Merlin is. The king called the three men to question each of them. The king asked if they had opened the safe to look at the jewels. Henry said he never knew the crown with the diamonds was in the safe. Jack said that he'd been away running some royal errands the previous day, so he couldn't have stolen anything. Merlin said he had spent the previous day preparing for the big day together with the queen. Who's guilty? While Merlin and Jack's version seem plausible, Henry's version seems a bit off. The king never mentioned the crown. He only asked about the jewels, but Henry gave himself away. He's guilty. Henry couldn't deny he was guilty, so he had to confess that he pawned the diamond as he needed the money. The king couldn't go to the pawn shop to retrieve the valuable stone, so he sent Merlin to do that. When Merlin arrived at the pawn shop, he asked the owner, Mr. Julesen, whether he bought any gems in the last few days. Mr. Julesen said he bought 3 large stones and showed them to Merlin. Can you guess which one is the real royal diamond? Even though at first glance these 3 gems look the same, there's a small mark on one of them. Look, there's a tiny letter R engraved on this stone. Merlin thought that R stood for royal, so he bought the diamond and brought it back to the king. It's finally the celebration day. All the people of the kingdom went to the festival, where they merrily danced and laughed. All of a sudden, the town got covered by a huge dark cloud. Bam! Out of nowhere, a wicked witch appeared, took the princess, and carried her away on her magic broom. She took the princess to a spooky forest and left her alone. Luckily, the princess had a magic pendant that could help her find her way back. The princess touched the pendant, and 3 spirit animals appeared. a butterfly, a hawk, and a caterpillar. What animal should the princess follow to get her back to her kingdom? If you were attentive enough, you might have noticed that at the festival, there were a lot of kingdom's blazons, all of them having a butterfly as their main symbol. Also, the princess has a butterfly embroidered on her dress. So her kingdom's spirit animal is the butterfly, and she should follow it. On her way home, the princess stumbled upon one more witch. She didn't seem evil. On the contrary, she invited the princess to her house and offered her a drink. The witch told her she needed to choose between the 3 drinks. The thing was that only one of the drinks was not poisoned. The drinks were tea with sugar, a cappuccino, and hot chocolate. Which one do you think she should choose? Let's see, if it was indeed sugar in the tea, it would have melted completely, but the sugar cubes are still there. The foam on top of the cappuccino is suspiciously yellowish, so it's probably unsafe to drink. So the princess opted for hot chocolate, thanked the witch, and continued her way to her kingdom. When the princess finally went back home, the celebration went on. All of a sudden, 3 knights, Lancelot, Galahad, and Percival, came up to her to have a chat. The princess felt uncomfortable. It seemed to her that one of the knights wasn't a real person. Can you guess who? Yeah, at first glance, these are just 3 handsome knights. But take a closer look. Sir Percival has 6 fingers on each hand, and his ears are weirdly shaped. He must be an alien. The princess thought that if Percival is an alien, there must be more aliens at the festival. Can you spot all of them? The young princess has a sharp eye. There are 3 more aliens looking similar to Percival. Look, there's a woman holding the flowers. She has pointed ears just like Sir Percival. The old man on the left has a similar feature too. And the man in the center is an alien as well. Jacob comes home from work and finds out that his girlfriend Stella is missing. She never cooks, but she left this weird recipe on the table. Can you figure out where Stella is? These fractions imply the number of letters that we should take from each word on the list. L from the lettuce, O, N from the onion, D, O from the donut, and so on. And this way, we'll get the word London. So Jacob should look for his girlfriend in London. Jacob hits the road and goes to the airport, but unfortunately the main road is closed for repairs. He can only take one of these 3 routes instead. Can you help Jacob make the right choice? Only the 3rd route leads to the final destination. Jacob checks in for a flight, and he still has to check out the local boutiques. There's an imposter among these mannequins. Can you spot him? This one. His eyes are blinking. Hey! It's boarding time. Jacob walks down the airport and spots 4 odd things about this place. Can you see them too? One of the planes is parked vertically. This trash bin is moving on its own. The gate numbering has mirrored digits. and the vending machine is selling raw vegetables. Jacob is ready to take his seat. Suddenly, he faces a mysterious stewardess. She offers him a deal.
Sir, I have 3 boxes for you. If you pick the right one, the entire first class will be yours. If not, you'll be removed from the flight.
Can you figure out which box Jacob should choose? Let's take a closer look at the food emojis printed on the boxes. If we write out the first letters of each ingredient, we'll get false, right, and wrong. So Jacob should pick the second box. Jacob lands in London and goes to the city by train. Can you find 3 zombies in this car? Hello? Jacob checks into a hotel. There's a fancy wedding party going on in the hotel restaurant, but one of these people is not from this planet. Can you guess who? It's the bride. She has 3 hands. Jacob receives an invitation from his girlfriend's kidnapper. Come over and you'll see Stella. Jacob arrives at the meeting point and sees 4 doors. A creepy voice announces, "Your girlfriend is behind one of these doors. If you pick the right door, you're free to go. But if you make the wrong choice, you'll be trapped forever." Which door should Jacob choose? Each door has a line of symbols. If we take the first letter of each symbol, we can arrange 4 female names: Stella, Alice, Miranda, and Bianca. So, Jacob should pick the first door to rescue his girlfriend. Jacob takes Stella to the hotel and goes outside to get some coffee. Oh no, zombies are everywhere! Jacob and a couple of other hotel guests hide in a royal suite. He goes to the kitchen to check the food supply. Suddenly, Jacob hears someone screaming and runs to the living room. He sees a zombie who has already bitten one of the guests. Jacob locks the zombie in the bathroom, and now he has to figure out who's infected. Jacob questions all of them. Stella says,
I was sitting in the closet, and suddenly a zombie ran into the room.
Peter says, I smeared myself with garlic to make the zombies stay away. And Elon says, I protected myself with a tennis racket. I carried it with me all day. That's why zombies didn't bite me. Who's lying? Peter, garlic protects from vampires, not zombies. Hey! Jacob and Stella return home safely. After a while, they decide to open a spa hotel outside the city. In the very first days, someone robs them and steals the most expensive beauty products. Jacob looks through the camera footage. He sees a masked person putting things from the storage into a bag and taking them away. Jacob knows for sure that the thief is among his employees, so he questions them. A massage therapist says,
Yesterday, I went home early because my husband got sick. I returned in the morning to work.
The manager says, I didn't sleep all night because one demanding visitor constantly complained. I was solving his problems. And the nail artist says,
I had to wake up last night to do an emergency manicure for my client. She's having an important event early this morning.
Can you spot the thief? It was the nail artist. Her sweater looks exactly the same as the thief's outfit in the camera footage, but she put on an apron on top. The next day, a weird thunderstorm happened in the area of the spa center. Some people received superpowers after looking at the lightning. Jacob decides to find all the superheroes to protect the other people from possible threats. Can you help him spot a superhero in this storage room? This guy's arm is too long. Can you see any superheroes in the lounge area? This cleaning lady is flying without any ropes. Jacob decides to visit the local pool. He leaves his clothes and backpack in a locker in the dressing room and goes swimming. After a while, Jacob returns. Oh no, someone broke the lock and stole his clothes. He decides to question 3 guys standing nearby. Elon says, I spent the last 30 minutes on an exercise bike, and now I'm headed to the shower. I didn't notice anything suspicious. Andrew says, I entered the dressing room a second ago. Your locker was already open. And Olaf says, I was washing my hair in the shower after the sauna, and I didn't hear anything at all. Who's lying? Olaf. If he's just washed his hair, why is it so dry? Jacob receives an emergency call from his manager. One of the guests is not from this planet. Can you spot who? This lady over here. Her skin tone is as green as her facial mask. Another mystery has occurred in the ladies' dressing room. Jessica complains to Jacob that someone has stolen her smartwatch. Jacob finds 3 suspects and questions them. Leah says, I was on the phone with my manager. I receive a 6-0 paycheck every month. Why would I need to steal gadgets? Melissa says, I've spent the last 2 hours in the sauna. I don't know what happened here. And Shannon says, I took a shower and then focused on my makeup. Sorry I didn't pay attention to the other guests. Who's lying? Melissa, take a look at the safety sign at the sauna entrance. It's forbidden to stay inside longer than 20 minutes. But according to Melissa's story, she spent 2 hours there. Liar! Jacob is heading to the parking lot, but the back door of the spa center is locked. Someone changed the 7-digit code. Can you guess the code to help Jacob open this door? There's a hint on the door. Each color corresponds with a particular number. Yellow implies 5, orange 2, red 6. So the last number of the code is 6. Stella has just purchased a fancy body lotion. She begins to test it, but something goes wrong. Stella is turning into a toad. Fortunately, she manages to call Jacob and tell him everything before it's too late. Jacob rushes to his witch buddy and gets a potion to turn Stella back into a human. But when he comes home, he sees not 1, but 7 toads. He has to figure out which one of these toads is Stella. Jacob finds a note, and here's what we know for sure. The correct toad isn't green, but it's next to a green one, and it's not next to the last toad in line. Can you find Stella? First of all, we can exclude all the green toads, and now we have 4 options left. The 7th toad is not next to the green one, so let's get rid of it too. Options 2 and 6 can also be excluded because they're both next to the last toads in line. So, Stella is the 4th toad. Paul has been driving for 7 hours on the freeway. Suddenly, his tire bursts. He calls for help, but the service worker says it will cost him $300. Paul gets angry. He's thirsty, hungry, and doesn't have any money. He's still sitting in the car when suddenly a miracle happens. 3 doors appear out of nowhere.
Wow!
Each door has a sign above showing where they lead. There's a bunch of delicious food behind the first door. Burgers, spaghetti, lobster, and pizza. The second door hides all sorts of beverages, from energy drinks to sodas and iced teas. And finally, there's $1 million in cash behind the third door. Which door should Paul open first? First of all, Paul has to open his car door. Someone breaks into Nina's apartment the day before Halloween. She returns home from work, sees the mess, and calls the police. The door doesn't have any signs of a break-in, but one of the windows is open. The detective questions Nina's neighbors. Mrs. Bold says,
I was knitting a pair of gloves for my great-granddaughter.
Ethan says, I was working a 14-hour shift the day before, so I was sleeping all day. And Dan says, I had broken my leg, and I didn't leave home for 3 weeks. Who's guilty? It's Ethan. He was the only one able to climb into a window. Mia is hiking in the forest and gets lost. She comes across a witch's house. The witch offers to teleport Mia home, but there's a twist. 5 doors appear in front of Mia. The witch says,
Only one of them will take you home. And you only have one chance to choose the right door. The door you need is black. It's not next to the leftmost or the rightmost door. It's not the door in the middle either.
which door should Mia choose? Mia has only 3 black doors to choose from. It's not the door next to the leftmost or the rightmost one, so the 4th door can be eliminated. It can't be the middle door as well. Therefore, Mia should enter the door on the left. Polly is trying to break into an ice castle to save her friend Edward, but there's a combination lock on the gate. Luckily, there's a clue carved in the ice here. The 162 combination. Only one number is correct and in the right place. As for the 842 combination, 2 numbers are actually correct, but in the wrong places. 526, nothing is correct. Can you help Polly crack the code? The passcode is 184. First, we exclude 2 and 6 because in the 3rd combination, no number is correct. In 842, 2 numbers are correct. So now we can conclude that the code contains 8 and 4. The last number must be 1, and since 1 is in its place, we can easily figure out where 8 and 4 should go.
Yes!
Anna wakes up in a dark dungeon without remembering what happened.
Oh, God.
She looks around and sees a metal door. Unfortunately, it's locked, and it requires not just 1 password, but 4. Anna has just 1 attempt to make it right. Gladly, next to the door, there's a sign with 4 words: apple, bread, chair, and dress. Can you guess the passwords for each keyhole? Let's take a closer look at the shapes of each keyhole and the shapes of the passwords.
Oh.
Some letters are bigger than others, and each word can fit right in. So bread should be put in the first keyhole. Apple fits into the second one, and the dress goes into the third keyhole. And finally, the chair should be put fourth.
Oh.
Take a look at these people. One of them is not a real human. Can you guess who? It's the lady on the left, who eats a main course with a dessert spoon. What about this picture? Who looks suspicious? This guy. There's no reason to wear a warm coat. Can you spot a guest from another planet in this cafe? It's this lady. She's reading a magazine upside down. Leo opens a new art gallery. He needs to hire a manager to handle it. Leo finds these 3 candidates online and studies their profiles. Steve has recently graduated from college, but he's already completed several internships at fancy art galleries. Bella has been working in Europe for several years, and now she's looking for job opportunities in her hometown to be closer to her family. And Frank has 15 years of work experience. Unfortunately, one of these candidates is a liar. Can you guess who? Take a look at Leo's calendar. It's 2023 now. According to Frank's birthday, he should be around 22 years old at the moment. Therefore, he can barely have a 15-year work experience. Rick works for a large financial company. He gets outside the office and goes to the parking lot to go to a business meeting. But he doesn't find his Mercedes in the parking lot. He immediately calls the police. The police officers soon find Rick's car and start to chase the criminal, but he leaves the car and escapes to the park. The police search the arena and find 3 suspects. "What are you doing here?" Nick says, "I'm jogging here." Mike says, "I'm just waiting for a taxi to pick me up." And Peter says,
I'm just walking and enjoying nature.
"Who stole the car?" Mike. He's hiding a car key with the Mercedes logo. Kelly wakes up in a haunted hallway. To get outside, she needs to enter one of these 3 doors. But each option has a hidden danger. Venomous scorpions are crawling behind the first door. There's a siren behind the second door. She can turn any human into a zombie with her singing. And there's a fire-breathing dragon behind the third door. Which door is more or less safe for Kelly to choose? Kelly can put on her soundproof headphones and walk through the second door.
Yes!
Mary goes to a jazz club after work. It's almost empty, but there's one handsome gentleman sitting in a chair next to a mirrored wall. Mary falls in love at first sight. She approaches him and introduces herself.
Hello.
But suddenly, Mary changes her mind. Why?
Oh.
The gentleman doesn't reflect in the mirror, so he's either a ghost or a vampire. Bob decides to go play basketball with his friends. Can you spot anything odd here? There's no hoop. Can you spot any mistakes in this picture? The ice cream cart lacks a wheel, and the lettering is wrong. Vicky arrives at her apartment after 2 hours of absence. Wow, there's a huge fruit basket by her door. The card says it's from a secret admirer. Vicky questions her neighbors. Mrs. Green says, "I've been walking my dog in a park for 3 hours. Then we grabbed some groceries and went home." Andrew says, "I left my apartment about 5 minutes ago to do some laundry in the basement. I only have 1 set of bed linen, so I have to wash it regularly. The basket was already at your door, but I didn't see anyone." Jacqueline says, "I was taking a bath. I turned the music loud so I couldn't hear anything from the corridor." Who's lying? Andrew said he has only 1 bedding set, and it should be inside the washing machine at the moment. But take a look at his apartment. His bed sheets are still on the bed, so his story must be fake. Can you spot a guest from another planet? This lady is too tolerant of heat. This gentleman has a knife instead of an arm, and this one didn't break the eggs before cooking them. Richard wants to rent a studio apartment in Boston. He asks an agent to find the property of his dreams. The agent comes up with 4 options, but only one of them is trustworthy. Can you help Richard make the right choice? The first studio looks very classy and chic, but the ceiling is leaking. According to the description, the second apartment was built centuries ago, so it just can't look so high-tech and fancy. As for the fourth option, it's too overpriced for a property that is located next to a toxic factory. So Richard should pick the third studio. Although it looks pretty messy, he can easily fix it. Dan and Jeff are best friends and travel bloggers. They plan an epic hiking trip, but Dan has to go to the hospital, and Jeff goes on the trip by himself. Dan gets better and decides to go find Jeff and surprise him. On the way, Dan meets the locals and questions them about Jeff. The farmer says,
I didn't see any strangers on my land. I don't like uninvited guests.
Then Dan knocks on a cabin in the woods. A cute old couple opens the door. They say,
It's just the 2 of us. We haven't had any guests in our house for many years.
And finally, Dan questions a tourist. I set up my camp here yesterday. I didn't see anybody who looks like Jeff. Who's lying? Let's take a closer look at the old couple's table. Why would they need to serve 3 teacups if they don't have any guests? One day, Jeff and Dan find a treasure map. They rent a boat to go find the hidden treasure, but the map has a twist. It shows 5 islands, and it doesn't say directly where the treasure is. All it says is that the other 4 islands are very dangerous. There's an ancient text written on the opposite side of the map. Jeff and Dan translate it into English, and that's what they get. Can you help them figure out the correct location of the treasure? According to the poem, they should stay away from the island with no single plant. Also, they should avoid the island that's surrounded by sharks, the island with a mountain, and the heart-shaped island. So the only island left is this one. The treasure should be here. The guys come over to the island. Suddenly, they get surrounded by a crowd of crabs. Can you sort one odd crab out? There it is! Jeff and Dan keep on walking and see this sign. There are 4 possible routes, but only one of them will actually lead them to the treasure. Can you figure out the correct way? The trick to solving this maze quickly is to start drawing from the final destination, so they should take route A. Finally, Dan and Jeff find a treasure chest, but it's locked. They need a 4-digit code. Can you help them open the combination lock? Take a look at the images painted on the treasure chest. It's not just a decoration, it's a hint. To crack the code, we need to count the number of details in each icon. So the code is 8382. Dan and Jeff get back to the port with the treasure. They book the best room in the most expensive hotel. Then they decide to relax in the spa area and see 2 ladies taking baths. Can you guess who's not from this planet? Both! The lady on the left has tentacles, and the lady on the right doesn't look human-like at all. After the spa session, the guys go to the restaurant. Can you see anything odd here? there's a rat in this guy's glass. After dinner, Dan and Jeff return to their room. Oh no, someone robbed them! The police officer arrives quickly and examines the crime scene, but he finds no signs of a break-in. He questions 3 suspects who had a key. The hotel manager says,
I spent all day with my husband, and my shift started 15 minutes ago, so I don't know what happened here.
The repairman says, I entered the room about an hour ago to replace burnt-out light bulbs. Everything looked fine. And the cleaner says, I cleaned the room in the morning before the check-in, and I've never entered it again. Who's lying? The repairman said he had replaced the bulbs with new ones. But this lamp still lacks a bulb. Seems like he was busy doing something else.
Oh no.
Dan and Jeff want to get their treasure back, so they search the repairman's apartment. Can you help them find it? It's on the couch, hidden under the pillows. The treasure chest is okay, but the thief locked it and changed the code. The guys need to figure out a new 4-digit combination to open it. There are no hints in this apartment, only this shopping list. Can you figure out the code? Let's take a closer look at the list. If we count the number of letters in each word, we'll get the code. 6, 7, 5, 4. Jeff brings the treasure to his house because he has a safe. He sets a new 4-digit code and leaves a reminder nearby. Can you guess the new code? To solve this one, we need to turn the piece of paper upside down. This way, 0, 5, 8, 9 will turn into 6, 8, 5, 0. Jeff is chilling in his living room. Suddenly, the electricity goes out in the entire neighborhood. 1 hour later, Dan arrives at Jeff's place and finds him tied to a chair. 30 minutes ago, a masked man robbed my house and took the treasure. The police arrive at the crime scene right away. They identify 3 suspects and interview all of them. Jim says, I was washing my car. Rita says, I was making coffee. And Emma says, I was doing the laundry. Who's lying? There was a blackout, so the suspects couldn't use any electrical equipment. Jim washed his car with a sponge. Rita made coffee in the chesva. As for Emma, she couldn't use the washing machine. Therefore, her story is fake. Dan goes to a costume party, but the guard at the entrance refuses to let him in without a password. He says, all you need to figure it out is in this room. Dan looks around and solves this mystery. What about you? Let's take a look at the graffiti wall. The 4th palm stands out because it's the only image of a left hand. Also, there are cosmic tattoos on each hand. Therefore, the secret password is the sun. Dan and Jeff are walking down the street and filming another vlog. Suddenly, a flower pot falls right down on Jeff's head. Dan helps Jeff get back on his feet and identifies the apartment from which the pot fell. They ring the bell. A young couple opens the door. Jeff was injured by the pot you threw away. But the couple says, that's impossible. You probably confused the floors. We returned from a long trip just a minute ago. But the guys didn't believe them. Why? If the couple had just returned, there would be some suitcases in the hall, and the water in the kitchen couldn't boil in 1 minute. They lied to avoid paying compensation. The next morning, Dan wakes up in a creepy basement. An obsessed fangirl kidnapped him and locked Dan in her house. She brings him some food and leaves. Dan notices a piece of paper on the floor. Finally, he hears the fangirl leaving the house. Dan kicks down the door and runs to the front door to escape, but there's a combination lock, and he needs to enter a 4-number code. There must be a clue to the lock on the paper. Which combination opens the door? The number of fruits implies each digit in the code, and the color sequence on the paper implies the position of each digit. So Dan should enter 2, 3, 1, 4. Jeff and Dan decide to shoot their next adventure in a haunted village. A scary werewolf has been scaring the residents here for several days. The guys know that the werewolf has a wife. She's the only person who can calm the monster down and help him return to his human form again. They find 3 ladies. Each of them might be the wife, but none of the ladies admits it. Can you guess who the real werewolf's wife is? It's the 3rd lady. She has some brown wool on her clothes. Jeff takes a picture of an exotic parrot. Can you find the correct shadow of this bird? Only the 5th shadow is the perfect match. Will and Lily are best friends, but they live in different cities. Will misses her very much and goes to her city by train. On the train, Will puts his gold watch on the table and makes himself comfortable. The train goes into a dark tunnel for a few seconds. When it gets light again, Will can't find his watch. There are 3 people in his compartment. He questions them all. Who stole my watch? Meg says, I was sleeping all the way. Xavier replies, I went to order a cup of coffee. And Dan says, I was waiting until it got light again to keep on reading. Who's the thief? Xavier. He hid the watch on his wrist under the sleeve. A watchmaker calls the police and says that he's just been robbed. Inspector Bold takes the case and rushes to the watchmaker's house.
I was finishing my work at about 8 p.m. Suddenly, the power was cut off. I went to the terrace to fix it. Suddenly, 4 men knocked me over and tied my hands. They stole all the money and left. At 10 p.m., I managed to get rid of the ropes. I fixed the lights and called the police.
Inspector Bold doesn't believe this story. Why? If the watchmaker had no electricity, his digital clock would have been 2 hours slow. He faked the robbery to get insurance money. Mr. Green throws a party in his mansion for all his friends and colleagues. He puts on his favorite shirt and diamond cufflinks. The party is a success. It gets dark and all the guests go out to the terrace to watch fireworks. Suddenly, Mr. Green notices that one of his cufflinks is gone. He looks around and quickly spots the thief. Who stole the cufflink? Take a look at this lady. She hid it in her hair. Busted! Molly goes for a walk with her friends. She has just gotten her first salary and she wants to buy some candies. Molly notices a small shop with chocolate and lollipops. They approach the shop. Molly takes her money out of her wallet, but a sudden gust of wind blows the bills away. Molly gathers her money, but one $10 bill is still missing. One of her friends must have taken it. Who took the bill? This guy. He's standing on it. Mike and Ike are brothers. Mike is a millionaire, and Ike is broke. Can you guess who is who? It's not his car, so he's probably Ike. Meanwhile, the cyclist has a luxurious car key. Therefore, He must be Mike. One of these ladies is broke. Can you guess who? It's the lady on the left. Her phone is fake. Karen works in a business center. One day, she was found unconscious in the bathroom. Doctors conclude that she was poisoned. The detective watches the CCTV. He sees 3 people who talked to Karen that day. The detective interviews these people. He asks one question.
How well did you know her?
Peter says, Laura worked in my department. She used to bring papers for me to sign from time to time. Kelly replies,
We got along pretty well. Sometimes we had lunch together, and we plan to go to a concert next week.
And Sandra says,
I don't know her at all. We only talked once when she asked me what time it was. She lost her phone, and that's not surprising. Karen is so absent-minded. She's always losing things.
who poisoned Karen? Sandra. First, she said that she didn't know Karen at all. Then she called her by name and started talking about her traits. Lauren meets Jack on a dating app. They chat for a while, and today is their first date offline. Lauren arrives at the meeting point and sees Jack, but something's wrong with this guy. Can you guess what? Take a closer look at his profile picture. He has a mole on his cheek. Where did it go? Kevin is walking in the woods. Suddenly, a wicked witch pops out of nowhere and kidnaps him. Kevin wakes up in her cabin. The witch says,
You're my servant now. Clean up the kitchen while I'm gone. And don't even think of running away. The first door is guarded by hungry dogs. There's a vampire behind the second door. And there's toxic gas behind the third door. You'll never get out of here.
but Kevin still finds a way to escape. Can you guess how? He used the garlic from the kitchen to chase away the vampire and escaped through the second door. There's a huge drama taking place in a prison for dangerous criminals. The prisoners have broken out of their cells and now they're trying to escape from the territory of the prison. The local manager realizes that the only way to solve this issue is to ask a superhero for help. But their fees are very high. That's why the manager can only afford to hire one superhero. Mr. Scanman can see and pass through any obstacle. Magnetus has the ability to control all the metals in the world. And Mr. Fireman controls sparks and evokes fire with the power of his mind. Who can help stop the prison uprising? Magnetus will be able to lock all the cells and put handcuffs on everyone. So he's the best choice for this task. Rick takes 2 pictures of his girlfriend. Can you find 5 differences between them? Ready to see the differences? Here they are. Nina goes to the supermarket. She picks up all the products and goes to the cashier to pay. Oh no! Her expensive leather wallet is gone! Nina interrogates 3 suspects standing nearby. Mike says, I didn't see your wallet at all. I was too busy choosing chocolate bars. Stan says, I'm a vegan lady. I don't use leather wallets. And I make all my payments with my phone. And Stella says, I think it was Mike. He doesn't look like someone who can afford to buy so much gourmet food. Who's lying? Let's take a closer look at Stan's shirt pocket. There's a leather wallet inside it, but he said that he only pays via his phone. Therefore, his story is a lie. Emma is a conductor on a train. She makes her way through the cars and finally arrives at the first class. There are only 3 passengers. Emma asks to see their IDs. The passengers hand over their cards. As Emma scans the cards, she finds out that one of the IDs is fake. Can you guess which one? The first ID is fake. Take a look at this guy's birth date. February 31st doesn't exist. Richard returns home from work and discovers that someone has robbed his apartment. He calls the police and they question 3 neighbors living on his floor. Sheila says,
I was outdoors with my boyfriend all day. We arrived home 1 minute before you came over.
Zach says, I was sleeping with my earplugs after a long night shift and you woke me up. I didn't notice anything suspicious. And Alice says,
I spent the whole day working from home. I only went out once, about 2 hours ago, to do my laundry in the basement.
Who's lying? Let's take a look at Sheila's kitchen. She said they had returned just 1 minute ago, but there's a pot with boiling water on the stove. It takes more than a minute to boil so much water, so her story is fake. 3 friends are hanging out at a barbecue, but one of them has been replaced by a monster. Can you guess who? This lady. Her eyes are too yellow for a regular human. And now let's find out how sharp your vision is. Can you spot these 3 items in this mess? Ready to see the correct answer? Here they are. What about this location? Can you spot these 3 items? Over here. Jake is a very rich guy. He lives in a mansion with a gardener, a cook, and a housemaid. One day he goes on a business trip and returns 2 days later. Oh no! Someone put a huge coffee stain on his exclusive white sofa. Jake gets furious and interrogates his staff. The housemaid says,
Yesterday I had a day off, so I spent it outside the mansion. As for today, I cleaned the living room first, and then I focused on the bathrooms, and the sofa was fine.
The gardener says,
Yesterday, new plants were delivered. I was very busy planting 6 palm trees in front of the house, so I didn't have the chance to chill indoors.
And the cook says, I was trying new recipes in the kitchen and filming vlogs for my subscribers. I never hang out in your living room, sir. Who's lying? It's the gardener. There's no palms in front of Jake's mansion. Jake goes hiking alone. He's in the middle of a dark forest. Suddenly, a witch appears in front of him. She casts a spell and teleports Jake to her cabin. The witch offers him a deal.
The only chance to escape is to drink one of my 3 potions. If you guess it right, you're free to go. If not, you'll be my prisoner forever.
Can you figure out which potion Jake should drink? Take a closer look at the emojis that imply the potion ingredients. If we write out the first letters of each ingredient, we'll get sleep, escape, and blind. So, Jake should pick the second potion. Jake drinks the potion and teleports to a desert island. There's only 1 coconut tree and 1 banana tree, but Jake can only eat from one of them. Which tree should he choose? The coconut tree. It can provide both food and water, while the banana tree only provides food. Thankfully, Jake sees a boat passing by. It's filled with people. Jake rubs his eyes and takes a look again. The boat is still there, but Jake doesn't see a single person on it. Why? Because all the people are married. The boat takes Jake to the nearest town. There are 4 people standing on the pier. One of them is a cop working undercover. Can you guess who? It's this guy in a sports suit. There are cuffs sticking out of his pocket. Jake is walking down a black street. He's wearing all black. Black shoes, socks, trousers, coat, gloves, and balaclava. All the street lamps are off. A black car is coming towards Jake, and its headlights are turned off. How did the driver see Jake? It's daytime. Jake is starving, so he decides to go check out the local bakery and purchase some snacks. The price for one cherry donut is 50 cents, and one apple donut costs $2. They also have lemon donuts. The price is $1.50 per item. Can you calculate the price for one blueberry donut? To solve this mystery, we should remember the color sequence in the rainbow. The price increases by 50 cents from red to purple. So the price for one purple donut is $3.50. Jake's mother wants him to get married as soon as possible. That's why she arranges a blind date for him. The lady's name is Karen. Today, they're meeting for lunch. This is the first time Jake and Karen are going to meet in person, and they haven't seen any pictures of each other. Karen texts Jake, "I'll wear gold hoop earrings." Jake arrives at the restaurant. There are 3 ladies. All of them are wearing gold hoops. Can you help Jake find his Karen? Let's take a look at the second table. There are 2 dinner servings and cutlery for 2 people. This lady is already with someone. The third lady has already drunk half of her milkshake, and she's busy working on her laptop. She's not here for a date, so Karen is the first lady. The next morning, Jake arrives at his office. There's a huge gift box on his desk. The sender is unknown. Only 3 people are in the office today: Mia, Prudence, and Paul. Jake questions them. Mia says, "I was preparing and printing some documents for you. We have a great business deal to sign." Paul says, "My alarm didn't work today. I overslept and just arrived. I don't know who brought the gift." And Prudence says, "I don't know who did it. I was trying to fix the printer, but it won't work. Someone broke it yesterday." Who's lying? Mia printed the documents for Jake this morning, and she's holding them in her hands. Therefore, Prudence is lying. Jake takes 2 pictures of his office room. Take your time and try to spot 10 differences between them. Ready to see the answer? Here they are. He's in the middle of a creepy abandoned village in the woods. It starts raining heavily. Jake finds an old cabin and hides inside it. Jake wanders around for a while and finds 3 doors leading outside. But each path hides some dangers. There's a huge fire behind the first door. There are wild animals waiting behind the second door. And the third passage is filled with toxic gas. Humans can't survive after breathing it in. Can you help Jake choose the right door? The first one. It's been raining heavily in the woods. and the doors leading outside the house, so the fire was gone a long time ago. Jake checks the maps. Karen's place is nearby, so he decides to walk. On the way, he finds 3 bushes with different herbs. Yay! I can collect some of them to put in tea! But only one of these herbs is actually safe. Can you guess which one? The first herb caused a rash on Jake's hand, and the third one looks pretty stinky. So he should take the second one. Finally, Jake arrives at Karen's house. She shows him around. Can you spot 3 emojis hidden in her living room? Here they are. Then, Jake goes to the bathroom to wash his hands. Can you find 3 hidden emojis here? Hello! And finally, Jake lands in the kitchen. There are 3 emojis here. Can you see them? There you go. Karen is cooking dinner. She asks Jake to go to the storage room to get one last ingredient. But instead of saying directly, she gives him this weird shopping list. Can you help Jake figure out the ingredient? The number implies the letter we should pick out of each word. The encrypted word is pepper. And now let's take a look at the color of the note. It's written with a red marker. Therefore, Jake needs to get a red pepper. Karen picks some flowers in her garden and puts them in a vase on her table. Can you find the correct shadow? The third one. What about this necklace? Can you spot the correct shadow? The first one is the perfect match. Let's see if you can find a shadow that belongs to this book. The fourth option is correct. Jake turns on the TV news. Airport security guards got an urgent report. One of the passengers came back to the country with a stolen ancient treasure from Paris. The guards initiated a check. The mysterious passenger blended into the crowd, but they managed to find 4 suspects. Jake spots the thief right away. What about you? All we know about the thief is that he arrived from Paris. Therefore, the stickers on the suitcase can be helpful. Several guys have stickers with Paris, but take a look at this guy's suitcase. The Parisian sticker is on top of the others, so he's the thief.